Hi, my name is Sabne Raznik, and this is the channel here on YouTube where I do what I call mini readings, which is basically means it's just one poem. Sometimes it's my work, sometimes it's that of others. I've got quite a library going here on this channel of poetry from all over the world. Of course, I read the English translations, but as we all know, poetry and translation is a completely different animal than reading the work in its original language. So, if you are able to do so, I encourage you to go back and read the poem in its original language to experience that. And there are almost 100 videos on this channel now, going back to 2011, so I am sure you will find something you like. Today I decided to read a Yeats poem on my Instagram during the pandemic. I have been reading various books. I started on the 22nd of March, 2020. I started with reading Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Paton, and then we read River of Earth by James Steele, and then we read Under the Eye of the Clock by Christopher Nolan. Now we're reading Yeats poems, and hopefully that will get us through the rest of the pandemic. If not, I'll pick up and start reading Heaney's poems. Why not? But I thought that here on YouTube, I would read this particular poem of Yeats. It's got a lot of airing during the pandemic because it was released in his 1921 collection, Michael Robartes and the Dancer, which means that he was writing this on the survivor side of the Spanish flu epidemic. And so, that being the case, of course, people, when the pandemic started, people turned to this poem, The Second Coming, for a bit of insight into, and maybe even, how humans are when we're going through anything, no matter what it is. We like to feel like we're not alone in going through it, right? So people reached back to 1918 to try, which is the nearest year to it's not living memory anymore, but the nearest year to where we are now, where they experienced something similar. And so people reached back to 1918 to try to make sense of what was going on now and feel some comradeship in what they're going through, right? And in doing so, they came across this poem, The Second Coming, and it got quite a bit of airing over the past year, and I thought, well, in that case, I should probably read it on this channel to mark this unusual time that we're living in that possibly may not happen in quite the same way again for a few generations. So this is The Second Coming, and as you may guess by the title, there is some reference to the second coming of Christ, because Yeats was Catholic. He was also openly had other religious views too. You may or may not be familiar with, and he goes between the two in his writing quite a bit. And this happens to be a poem where he addresses the book of Revelation, his interpretation of the book of Revelation, which is an interesting subject for him to go to during a time of global pandemic like the Spanish flu, or like what we're experiencing now, right? Well, this was where he went to find his, I guess he got to thinking about how pandemics of this nature kind of fulfill some of the prophecies in the book of Revelation, and so he wrote a poem about his interpretation of the book of Revelation, and we end up with the second coming. So this is the second coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image of the spiritus mundi trembles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert a shape, with a lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun is moving its slow thighs, while all about it real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? Like I said, it's his interpretation of what was going on in the book of Revelation. But that's where his meditations went during the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918, was to the book of Revelation. And then, of course, we started going through this pandemic, and people pulled out that poem and were like, you know. So I thought it would be, therefore, appropriate to put it on this channel to mark our unusual times. I won't say unprecedented, obviously they're not, but they are unusual. So, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, go back through the channel. You will find something you like, because this channel is all about sharing the joy of poetry. I encourage you, if you like what you find here, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way, I wouldn't mention that, except that I don't post here, I don't upload here on a regular schedule for various reasons, my health being a major part of them. I've got chronic issues that make keeping any kind of a schedule kind of difficult, but for multiple reasons, not just that. That way, if you hit the bell, you will know when I upload, because it will tell you, and since it's not on a schedule. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope you come back for more. Thank you for joining me in my living room in the apartment Rouge. Don't let that go hunting till we meet again. Bye.